Over 3 years, I interviewed at least a dozen professional women on this podcast. They were physicians, founders, lawyers, executives. They were in different fields, different decades, and led different lives. And all were given the same exact advice: work twice as hard, prove yourself, earn your seat at the table, and figure out the rest of your life on the side. This is the career strategy we've been handed. They didn't give it a name, but I call it the compliance strategy. And we all paid the same exact price: burnout, exhaustion, and no guarantee that career success actually follows. I know because I am one of them. After 15 years of becoming a trauma surgeon, raising 6 kids, and following every rule of the compliance strategy, I almost quit medicine. And that's when the question came up for me: if working twice as hard still leads to burnout, what other option do we really have? So today, I'm coming back with a new name, a new mission, and a new question I want every ambitious woman to start asking herself. This is the Defiant Career. Let's begin. The last episode of this podcast came out in November of 2022. I want to tell you what happened in that silence. The original podcast launched in 2019 with one mission: make professional Muslim women visible, share their stories, and prove that the path exists. We had 33 episodes, multiple women from different fields, 2 seasons, and you learned an enormous amount from every guest. Then the pandemic hit, and both Dr. Hani Ahmed, my original co-founder, and I were frontline physicians with young children, and the show went quiet. Not because we stopped caring, but because we were living the exact tension the show was about. For those of you new to the podcast, a quick introduction. My name is Dr. Ghali Hussein. I'm a double board certified trauma surgeon. I'm also a mom of 6 and the founder of Defiance Academy. I started this podcast, originally called the Professional Muslim Women Podcast, with Dr. Hani Ahmed, who's an internal medicine doctor who has stepped back from the show. I am bringing it back with a new mission. So a little bit of background on my experience and why I continue on this mission. I've spent 15 years becoming a double board certified trauma surgeon as a hijabi Muslim woman while having 6 kids during training. I've navigated racism, sexism, Islamophobia the entire way up the ladder. I followed every single rule of the compliance strategy. I worked twice as hard. I've proven myself at every level. I earned every seat at the table. Then I thought I had made it. I became an attending. The destination I had been promised was worth all the sacrifice, all the sleepless nights, and all the time away from my children. And in my first year in practice, I walked into a hostile workplace that was compromising my ability to care for my patients. I could not lead a team to help save a dying patient. And I came to a point where I was about to walk away from a career I'd spent 15 years building because it was physically, psychologically, and mentally breaking me. And that's when the idea of hard work changed for me. If working twice as hard only leads to burnout and wanting to quit a career you've spent your entire life building, then that strategy is wrong. When we started this podcast, I wasn't podcasting about work-life balance. I was living it and trying to figure it out. And that experiment was failing. Now, I could have written my own story off as one bad workplace, one unlucky outcome. But I had 3 years of interviews on this podcast from women across all fields telling me otherwise. For 3 years, I spoke with accomplished women from different fields and asked them how they built their careers. They came from different countries, different decades, they had different families, different starting points, and faced different obstacles. But when I started listening for the pattern, every single one of them had been given the same piece of advice early in her career: work twice as hard, prove yourself, earn your seat at the table. This advice was so universal, it was invisible. Nobody questioned it because nobody had a name for it. We just called it being a hard worker, or paying your dues, or earning your stripes. And that's what made it disturbing. The outcomes were all the same: burnout, exhaustion, health costs, strained relationships, and no guarantee, none whatsoever, that career success was waiting for you at the end of all that sacrifice. The same career advice to work twice as hard given to all these women across the globe, across industries, and they all had similar outcomes of burnout and exhaustion. That's not a coincidence. That's not bad luck. That's a strategy problem. And then, just as the momentum was building for the podcast and we heard from listeners who really enjoyed the content and new perspective, the pandemic happened. And both Dr. Hani and I got a front row seat to an amplified version of burnout, and the challenges we were discussing of being working moms stopped being theoretical. So the hiatus on this show wasn't just because we were busy. It was because the pandemic forced a stress test on every working woman's strategy at once. I watched it from the inside as a frontline surgeon, as a mother with 6 children who were being homeschooled at the time, and as someone running an organization. Dr. Hanny saw it as a frontline hospitalist. I watched it from the outside in the data, in the headlines, and my sisters' and friends' lives. What the pandemic revealed wasn't new. Here's what we need to understand. The pandemic didn't show us anything we didn't know already. It just made it more visible. The advice we've all been following was never actually working. It was just hiding the cost. And that's what I now call the compliant strategy. Women navigating workplaces that weren't designed for them while carrying the full responsibilities at home are expected to work twice as hard, prove themselves, don't make waves by demanding change, earn every seat by being indispensable, agreeable, and tireless. Trust that the system will reward you for it, that you'll eventually get the flexibility that you need and achieve work-life balance. It expects you to treat your career as one optimization problem and your life, your partnership, your family, your faith, your kids, your health as a separate problem you handle on your own time. And so when we burn out, it's not a personal failing. It's because of the default career advice given to ambitious women that doesn't account for your full life. And most of us have followed it without ever questioning whether it works because we've never been given another option. The biggest problem with the compliance strategy isn't that it asks for too much labor. It's that it ignores your reality and forces you to split yourself in two, that your work life and your home life are two completely separate problems. But here's the reality. Every major life decision is a career decision, and every major career decision is a life decision. Who you partner with shapes how much risk you can take with your work. When you have children, how many children you have, and how you share caregiving, that shapes every promotion, every salary, every health outcome over decades. How you protect your health determines whether you'll still be in your career in 10 years. The compliance strategy pretends those choices are personal, separate, non-work. So women navigate them in silence and in silos, and they pay the price in their career anyway. That split is the lie, and it's the lie that breaks women. And the receipts, they were everywhere. We just had not been counting them. The pandemic showed the receipts at scale. Women left the workforce in numbers we hadn't seen in a generation. The ones who stayed paid more in sleep, in health, in caregiving they did invisibly on top of full-time work. But the receipts were there all along. We were just blind to them. I had a colleague who got into leadership and stopped seeing her kids. A senior surgeon who made it to the top and lost her marriage as a consequence. The lawyer who got partnership and stopped having a life. The astrophysicist who put her career on hold to focus on family but never got back on track. And the brilliant resident who burned out and left medicine entirely. And I almost walked away after 15 years. These aren't outliers. They're the expected outcomes of the compliance strategy. And here's the reality. The compliance strategy works exactly as designed. It just isn't designed for you to win. These receipts add up to something obvious in hindsight. The advice was never built to deliver what we actually want. It was built to keep us laboring inside a system that profits from our compliance and a society that profits us functioning the way we are. And this is why women feel like it's their fault. We've been told that if we work hard and stay disciplined, we'll get the career we want and the flexibility we need. We worked hard, we stayed disciplined. We might have gotten the career that we wanted, but not the flexibility. And so we burned out. So we conclude we are the problem. We're not the problem. The strategy that we've been given is. And once you can see the strategy, you can stop blaming yourself for outcomes the strategy was always going to produce. So if compliance is the strategy that's been failing us, what is the alternative? The opposite of the compliance strategy is not rebellion or burnout recovery or leaning in harder. It's not even technically ambition. Ambition was never a problem. Women have always been ambitious. The issue was that our ambition got handed the wrong strategy. The opposite of compliance is defiance, not loud defiance, not angry defiance, strategic defiance. Now, I want to be cautious with this word because it scares a lot of people. I had a client who waited an entire year to approach me because the word defiance scared her. It's almost like you're doing something wrong. This is not defiance for the sake of defiance. This is not defiance for the sake of breaking rules and fighting. So let me clarify this. Defiance, the way we define it, is not fighting and rebelling for the sake of it. It is strategic. And the reason this strategy exists is because of pure necessity. I was forced to create this strategy for myself when I was faced with the possibility of walking away from a career I'd spent 15 years building. I went to a women's empowerment conference to look for guidance in how to lead in the hostile workplace I was navigating. I couldn't tell whether it was racism, Islamophobia, sexism. I didn't know what it was. And the keynote speaker at that conference on diversity, equity, and inclusion stood up there and talked about everything women face in the workplace: pay gap, leadership gap, awards gap, grant funding gap. And when I asked about the actual issues I was facing, her response was, I don't do race. And so the reality is that the challenges that we're facing, especially as women of color, nobody addresses. They are too difficult, they are too uncomfortable. And so we are expected to continue being compliant, and we are expected to continue tolerating the kind of workplaces that we're walking into and to endure it. And so the reality is the challenges that we face, especially as women of color, are not being addressed, even in circles where they're supposed to be front and center. And so as a result, I decided to build a different strategy. And I started calling it the Defiant Career Strategy. I've been studying how women have been navigating life and career, what led us to being called superwomen, and how we all ended up burning out and leaving the workforce. I've researched the career myths we've been told to accept as truth and the impact they've had. And I've been refining the strategy to undo the years of conditioning we've all been through. And I've been teaching it inside Defiance Academy for the last 4 years. And it's the strategy this show going forward is built around. But it's an extensive strategy, and I'm not going to give it to you in one episode. So over the next year, this show is going to walk you through what defiance looks like at every level of your career, episode by episode, decision by decision, story by story. For now, I have 2 invitations for you. One, I built a quick assessment that helps you see the impact the compliance strategy is having on you. It's a quick 2-minute quiz. The link is in the show notes. And every month, I run a workshop inside Defiance Academy where I walk through how to apply Defiance in real time. Link will be in the show notes for that too. Here's the image I want you to walk away with from this episode. Most career advice treats you like you're climbing the same exact ladder as your male colleagues, and you're doing it under the same conditions. The compliant career strategy says both of your ladders are the same, they're sturdy, and they reach all the way to the top of a building, and that there are no barriers to you reaching the top. The defiant career strategy is realistic. It says, number 1, you are not on the same career ladder. While your male colleague has a sturdy ladder that goes all the way to the top of the building, your ladder, number 1, doesn't make it to the top of the building. It stops short, meaning women don't have direct access to leadership the way men do. Right? Our path to leadership and being at the top of our careers is not as straightforward. We don't have the connections, we don't have the networks the same way they do. And especially if you are a first generation, you're figuring every step out on your own. Number 2, that ladder is broken. There are rungs that are broken and it is not very sturdy. That's an indication of how hostile the workplace can be and that it's challenging to navigate the workplace as a woman, especially as a woman of color. Number 2, you're carrying a baby and groceries that your male colleague doesn't. He has an entire support system that handles all that for him. You as a woman are still expected to carry your household responsibilities no matter how much you work. As if that wasn't enough, there's an anchor on the ground with a chain attached to your ankle. As you go up the ladder, that chain yanks on you and keeps you from advancing. What does that mean? Those are homocultural expectations. As women advance in the workplace, as women make more money, she faces challenges and backlash based on her gender. And no amount of hard work or time management or self-care will fix burnout coming from climbing a ladder that way. You have to change the circumstances. And once you see that, once you have that image in your head, you can't unsee it again. That's the beginning. That clarity is the beginning of defiance. Here's what the show is now and what you can expect from me every other week. New name. This is the defiant career now. We are no longer compliant. We are building a defiant career. And it's the same feed, so you don't have to resubscribe. The defiant career is the evolution of the Professional Muslim Woman podcast. The back catalog stays. The 33 episodes of guest interviews are research that informed the strategy, and they're still worth listening to. The defiant career will now be a new format. Solo episodes every other week, each one going deep on a single decision the compliance strategy has been quietly making for you and what defiance looks like in that specific moment. We will continue to have occasional guests, but our conversations are going to shift a little bit. I'm going to show you what's broken, the career myths that we've been following, what it's costing us, and I'm going to show you an alternative. So we're moving away from just sharing stories to actually being proactive and doing something about them. We're going to show you how to change how we navigate our life and career so we're no longer compliant. If you're not already subscribed, Subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes. You can also submit a question. The link to submit a question will be in the show notes. The best questions will become an entire episode. I will spend an entire episode answering a specific question and going deep. Take the quiz, come to the workshops. All the links are in the show notes. The original mission of the show was to make professional Muslim women visible. The new mission is to give you strategy so you can achieve career success without compromise. If anything in this episode landed somewhere uncomfortable, if you recognized yourself in the receipts, if the latter image is still in your head, that recognition is the beginning, not the end, the beginning. The next episode drops in 2 weeks. We're going to go deep on the first question every woman has to answer before she can do anything else. Do I actually want what I've been chasing, or did I inherit it? Until then, there's one thing I want you to do this week. I want you to notice the moments where you do the compliant thing automatically. You say yes. You do something because you think you're supposed to. Don't try to change it yet. Just notice. That noticing is the first defiant act. Everything else will get built on top of that. I'm so glad you're here. See you in 2 weeks.